So if you're like me and you shoot a lot of interviews for corporate events, talking heads, commercial filmmaking, and you're looking for that perfect lens, but really don't want to spend $2,000, $1,500 for one single lens, I have a new favorite lens, and it's called the Sirui VP Prime. So today we're looking at the Sirui VP Prime, which is an interchangeable mount lens. Right now I do have just a 35mm, but as you know, this is a very great focal length if you want to do an A-cam for interviews, and you can pair it up. You know, if you have more budget, just get the full lens set. I wanted to get the black one, but Sirui actually sent me the silver one by accident, but let me tell you, I do not regret it because it looks simply amazing. First of all, let me go back a couple months ago. Well, almost like 5-6 months ago. I went to Italy. I brought all my lenses, all my camera gear, in my Pelican. I took a train from Milan to Venice, and sadly, I don't know when, someone took all my lenses from my case. So this was a little tragedy because those were all my lenses. I was thankfully just left with the camera body, the FX3. I was very sad because I love using prime lenses, especially for interviews. I had the IRIX, and I had the anamorphic Blazer Remus, which got stolen in less than 2 months of me having it. So it was pretty sad. Thankfully, Sirui reached out and they wanted me to test this and give it kind of like a review. What are my thoughts? And it just became a lifesaver. This is the Blackmagic PYXIS 6K. And of course, you know that I'm a Sony user and I have E-mount for everything. But this is going to be an L-mount camera. So this is an L-mount camera. I was like, oh, I wish I had a new lens for the PYXIS, but I didn't want to spend more money. It was pretty sad because I was not sure how I was going to use the PYXIS because they lent it to me, and all my lenses are E-mount. So today we're looking at the Sirui VP-1 Prime interchangeable mount cinema lens. This cinema lens is very special just because, like you heard, you can change the mounts on the lens, so you can put in different mounts for different cameras. This lens, the size of it is very compact. You can be very versatile on set. Also, the quality. So it's an all metal build lens, which has a smooth focal ring and aperture ring. I like it to be a little bit smoother because I can be more flexible if I'm using like handheld. What I like about this lens for interviews is that if you're running 2 cameras or even 3 cameras, and sometimes you're not going to use all Sony, all Canon, or another type of camera with a different mount. If you have a set of these, you can actually change the mount on set because it's very quick, it's very easy. You just have to be very careful because the screws are very, very small. But you can actually change it and use it on different cameras. But you can switch to EF, E-mount, the L-mount, and even the RF mount. Like I said, great for multi-camera users. Another thing that I like is when I use a lot of handheld. I barely use gimbal, and the gimbal I use it with a zoom lens with autofocus. So these I like for interviews because I just leave it at a tripod, set the focal length, and just leave it there. And if I'm doing handheld as well, it's very nice. The feel, the ergonomics, so it's easy to manipulate the focal length while you're moving and holding on the camera. It's not very big because I had the IRIX 45mm before, and although it's a great lens, it was very, very big. So that's one thing I like the most is the size. Let's talk about the image quality and the look on this lens. So I can tell that the color on the lens is very consistent, which is something that's very important even if you're using different lenses and even different cameras. So you're gonna have a lot of factors that are gonna change the color on the image. I mean, that's why color grading will come in place if you need to make those adjustments, but it's nice to have it on the camera. So one thing that I noticed with the color on the lens is that it has a very, 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 very slight magenta tone. Very easy to fix. It's not a perfect lens. Like I said, it's very budget friendly, but the value that you get from it is huge. I'm going to show you some examples of some videos that I shot in my apartment of what it can do. I've shot a couple of interviews with it. I'll try to include those as well. So the pros are that it has interchangeable lens mounts, which you can use it for almost any camera. Also, the build quality is all metal, is very hefty. You can feel that it's high quality lens, although it's a budget lens. So you're not gonna break the bank with like $1,500 or like $2,000. You're just gonna see that the value is it's there, it's huge for the lens. I've had another Sirui lens before, which was the Nightcrawler or the Nightwalker. That lens, I love that lens. It was a Super 35 lens. I had it for my full frame FX3. I just gave it to a friend. He had the FX30 and we did a collaboration. I just gave it to him. Let me tell you, Sirui has this special look and how it renders the lighting. I mean, I really love the sharpness on it, which is another pro. Like on the eyes and on the edges of the subject, it's very sharp. You have also that soft look, you know, in those softer parts where the light hits the subject. So that's one thing I like when doing interviews, is having, you know, that sharpness available. And then if I need to tone it down, I could use either Pro Mist or in post-production fix it, rather than putting more sharpness in my editing software, which sometimes it look a little bit more cheap. So yeah, because of the size, the ergonomics, the quality, the build is great for documentary work, corporate events. I'm gonna say corporate events because sometimes when lighting is a bit more scarce, it's a 1.4 lens, very, very shallow depth of field. So also the bokeh, the background is gonna be very soft. Obviously the cons, I mean, it's manual focus. If not you're used to like autofocus, you're gonna be, you know, have to be checking the footage, the video while it's running in interviews, which it shouldn't be a big problem because you're always next to the camera operating it, or your camera operator can be like very aware of it. Also, it's a little bit more heavy. It's not a heavy lens, but it's a bit more heavy than zoom lenses. For example, my Tamron is a plastic lens, so you can see the difference on the weight. And I want to close this video by explaining like who is this lens for. Like myself, this lens is for those people that really have a bit more time in the production area. Not for, I wouldn't recommend it for like weddings, or like when I say events, I mean like corporate events when it's like a bit more slow paced. You're doing interviews, you have a setup. Handheld for creative work is excellent because, like I said, the size, the ergonomics, the focal ring is very soft, so you can move a lot. But I wouldn't recommend it for those who do like weddings or fast paced or like gimbal work a lot, because you don't have that autofocus and you have to like control it by yourself. If you don't have a camera operator, I wouldn't just leave it there, because if a subject is moving back and forth, you're gonna see that it might get out of focus, especially if you're in 1.4, prime lens and want to have that shallow depth of field, or doing creative work or like interviews like myself, and really don't want to break your pocket spending like $1,500, $2,000, even $3,000 on a lens. For that price, you can buy the set. I'm not sure the exact price, but you can buy for the price of one like high budget lens, you can buy the whole set. And even if you have different types of camera, you can interchange it using the same lens set. So that's gonna be the video for today. Thank you for being here all the way to the end. If you're here, don't forget to like, to comment what do you think about this lens, what do you think about the B-roll, what can we do better to improve, you know, these reviews. I think this might be my first review, but I'm really excited for Sirui sending me this lens. I'm really grateful, and let's keep creating, let's do more stuff, and you know, we'll see you in the next video.